We are learning about habitats around the world today and biodiversity. So let's start with the word habitat. Habitats are places where plants and animals live. Habitats provide food, they provide protection from predators and weather, and they also provide a place to raise their young. We characterize habitats by their climate and their location. So the climate is the weather conditions of an area over a long period of time, and a location is a particular place or position. So look at these pictures below and think about how Antarctica and Illinois, where we live, how the climate is different. So in Antarctica, it is cold all year long, and there's not as many plants, and the animals that live there have to adapt to the cold weather. But in Illinois, it's neither too hot or too cold, and we have 4 seasons: spring, summer, fall, and winter. So you just heard me use the term adapt. What do you think adapt means? So adaptations are how animals have changed over a long period of time to be suited for the environment that they live in. This is a picture of a fennec fox, and you can find it in the Sahara Desert. Why do you think that their ears are so big? Well, the 2 main reasons: one, it helps them listen for predators, but it also helps them stay cool in the hot, dry climate. So this is an example of how the fennec fox has adapted to the climate that they live in. Next, the word biodiversity means the measurement of the number of different plants and animals that live in an area. So biodiversity is good. We want there to be lots of different plants and animals on our Earth. There are many different types of habitats on Earth, but these are some of the main ones. Even within a certain type of habitat, depending on their location, they can be very different. So we have polar, grasslands, deserts, temperate forests, rainforests, mountains, freshwater, and oceans. But like I said, there's much more. Today I'm going to focus on 3 with you. Let's try a little true and false game to see what you already know. So I'm going to read through the 5 sentences. So think in your head after each one if you think it's true or if you think it's false. And then after we do all of them, I'll tell you what the answers are. So number 1, there are no plants or animals that live in the desert. Number 2, more than 40% of plants and animals on Earth live in the rainforest. Number 3, polar bears have a layer of blubber to help them adapt to polar climates. Number 4, all species of plants and animals have already been discovered on Earth. And number 5, different animals and plants live and grow in different parts of the world. Okay, here are the answers. So number 1 is false. Even though the desert is a very hot and dry climate, there are still different types of plants and animals that live there. Number 2 is true. Rainforests have a lot of biodiversity and a lot of different plants and animals that live there. So they do in fact make up more than 40% of plants and animals on Earth. Number 3 is true. So we talked about how animals adapt to their climates. So this is an example of how polar bears adapt to the polar climate. Number 4 is false. Scientists have not discovered every single species of plants and animals on our Earth. There's still a lot more to be discovered. And number 5 is true. There definitely is lots of different plants and animals that live and grow in different parts of the world. Grassland, savanna, and prairie are 3 habitats that are very similar. They have different names based on the location where you can find them. And these types of environments can be found on every continent. They are located on the dry interior or the inside of each continent. So there's 2 main types, tropical and temperate. So when you think of tropical, that's when you think of a savanna, like a savanna that you would find in Africa. And then when you think of temperate, that's how we would describe the grasslands you would find in the United States of America. In these habitats, there's more rainfall than a desert, but there's less than a forest. And in the African savanna, some animals you might find are zebras, gazelles, lions, and elephants. In North America, you might find deer, antelope, rabbits, and prairie dogs. Here's a map to show you where in the world you can find grasslands. And like I just said, there's two types. We have temperate grasslands and we have savanna or tropical grasslands. So if you look at the map key, the yellow represents temperate and green represents savanna or tropical. So in the United States of America, we have temperate grasslands. Temperate can also be found in parts of Europe and Asia, a little bit of Australia and South America. And then savanna or tropical grasslands mostly are found in Africa, some in parts of Asia, parts of Australia, and parts of South America. Tropical grasslands are usually a little bit more hot and also might have a little bit more rainfall than temperate. And that is because these types of grasslands are located a little bit closer to the equator, which is the line that runs through the middle of Earth. Here are some plants and animals that you would find in the African savanna. So we have gazelles, giraffe, lion, zebra, rhinoceros, elephant, and this tree is called a marula tree. Here are some plants and animals in the North American grasslands. There are coyotes, prairie dogs, bison, different types of rabbits, coneflowers, and blue stem grass. Now let's talk about deserts. So deserts are the driest places on Earth. They get fewer than 10 inches of rainfall a year. In deserts, it can be very hot during the day, but also very cold at night. Animals and plants have adapted to survive without much water. For example, cacti, which is plural for cactus, store enough water in their stems to last until the next rain. Also, desert animals stay underground or sometimes beneath a shady rock to keep cool. Here's a map to show you where you can find deserts on Earth. So there are two different types of deserts. There's cold deserts and hot deserts, but we're not going to talk about cold deserts. So if you look at the orange is showing you the parts of our Earth that have hot deserts. The biggest desert on Earth is the Sahara Desert in Africa. Here are some plants and animals you would find in the Sahara Desert. We have a fennec fox, a dromedary camel, a sand viper, a scorpion, a monitor lizard, and different types of cacti. The last habitat that we're talking about today is the polar habitat. So you can find polar habitats at the very top of Earth and at the very bottom of Earth. So at the very top of Earth, or the North Pole, is the Arctic Ocean. So there's no land here, it's just water and sheets of ice. Although some parts of other continents on the very northern part of it are in this region. And at the South Pole is the continent of Antarctica. So this is land, but it's covered with ice, and in some places the ice is even 3 miles thick. So in both of these places, it's very cold all year long, but there are two seasons, summer and winter. During the summer, the sun is out 24 hours a day, but it does not rise high enough, so it's still cold. And during the winter, it is dark all day because the sun doesn't rise during these months. There's plenty of snow in both of these places, but very little rain, and it's too cold for tall trees to grow. But there is a layer of permafrost, which is a layer of frozen soil. In the summer, grasses and mosses can grow here for a few months. Here are two maps to show you what the Arctic and Antarctica look like. So these maps are a little bit different because on the left, when we're looking at the Arctic Ocean, this map is showing you a view from on top of the Earth. And on the map on the right for Antarctica is showing you a view from the bottom of Earth. So as you can see, the Arctic is mostly the Arctic Ocean, but there are parts of Canada, Greenland, Russia, Alaska, and some other countries that also are part of this. And then Antarctica is a whole continent, and it is surrounded by the Southern Ocean. Here are some plants and animals that you would find in the Arctic. So there's a polar bear, there is a humpback whale, although there's also lots of different types of whales that you could find there. There's an Arctic wolf, an Arctic hare, an Arctic fox, and the bird you're looking at is called a tern. And then the two plants you're seeing, one is called the reindeer moss and one is called purple saxifrage. Here are some plants and animals that you would find in Antarctica. So we have emperor penguins, seals, orca. The bird is called an albatross. And then the two plants you're looking at, one is called pearlwort and one is called hairgrass. So that's it for this video. I hope you learned that there are lots of different animals on Earth and there's lots of different plants and they grow in different areas depending on their needs and adaptations. Next time we will talk about temperate forests, rainforests, and mountains.